Today's synth exploration is sponsored by DistroKid, so if you want to release your music onto Spotify, iTunes and other great stores, use DistroKid and my link in the description for a discount. DistroKid costs $20 a year, and with that you can upload unlimited amounts of music to all the stores. My most used synthesizer is still, to this date, the original Minilogue. I just think it's one of the absolute best synthesizers that has ever been made, and if you check out my channel you'll find a ton of content around it. I've also made patches for it, you can find them linked in the description. So naturally I was quite excited when KORG reached out and wanted to send over their new Minilogue bass. I think that the reason why I love the Minilogue so much is simply because it's super hands-on, it's very easy to use. You never feel like you're getting stuck in menus, everything is at your fingertips, and even though it's just 4 voices, it just makes for a very fast and fun experience. And I think, especially if you're working with a DAW, where you have a ton of great sounding virtual analog synthesizers, you know, the main reason why you'd want a piece of hardware is for the immediacy. That's why you want it. So my box here says Minilogue. I'm not entirely sure if they're gonna add Minilogue bass on the box or something like that, but it's nothing strange because ultimately the Minilogue bass is not a new synthesizer. It's basically the same Minilogue, but they've updated the way that it looks and they updated the presets for it. So if you've been looking to get a Minilogue, now is a great time because this one, this one looks sick. This one looks nice. Wow. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I really like the black and red. The keyboard, it's black. It's not like, this one is a little bit more bright red. You can see here, this one is a little bit more, I don't have the English word for it, but I guess somebody can comment down below and tell me what kind of red it is. And the back here has more of a red finish, and the I/O should be exactly the same as on the original. And I must say, I will talk a little bit more about this later, but I must say that I was, of course, a little bit disappointed that they didn't do any sort of upgrades to it or changes to it, but more about that later. As you can hear, this one still has that distinct Minilogue tone. And if you're new to the Minilogue or need a little refresh on what it is and what it can do, don't worry, we'll get to that later in the video. I'll make some patches from scratch and go over some of the functions and what makes it special. And if there was any doubt that the Minilogue can produce deep bass sounds, if you have headphones on, you should be able to pick out that this one has quite a lot of low end. Later in today's video, we're not only going to do a patch from scratch, I'm also going to show you a way to just get more out of your Minilogue by adding an external effect. Because the Minilogue only has a delay, so you'll likely want to add external effects, and I have one effect pedal in mind for the Minilogue that I think fits really well. Okay, this is kind of nice. Okay, these pad sounds really show what I mean with the specific Minilogue tone. And you can hear it here as well. There's this weird, slightly metallic, but still not digital, still not FM. It's just, it has a certain tone to it, which I think just makes it very distinct. So the Minilogue can sound warm and vibey and fuzzy. There's actually some really good presets here, not just bass sounds. And I think that the distinct tone of the Minilogue is what makes it special. Because if you're gonna buy a hardware synthesizer in this day and age when VSTs sound that good, you want something that is slightly different. You want something that's fun to use, quick, but you also want something that sounds distinct, that sounds different, that you can pick out in a mix, something that adds something. It doesn't necessarily have to be the fattest and biggest and boldest analog synth. It could just be something with a unique tone. So on the unit that I have here, there are 100 new presets, and some of which are actually really good. So next up, I want to do a patch from scratch and going over what makes the Minilogue workflow so special. And in honor of the new red keys on the Minilogue bass, I've put on a red t-shirt. So let's create a little patch here. Over here are the analog oscillators. There are 2 oscillators that you can blend together using the mixer. There is also noise. So we have sawtooth, we have triangle, and we have a square wave. And there's also a wave shaper per oscillator. And this is kind of unusual on analog synths. Not all analog synths have that. So if we take a quick look in the manual, what the shape knob does is that it introduces complexity to your sound. So it takes a basic waveform, as you can see here, and turns it into something more complex, giving us a wider range of possible sounds. For the first oscillator, I'm going with the square wave, and for the second one, let's bring it in. Going with the triangle, and it's 1 octave above, and we can introduce some noise. And then we have the amp EG here. Let's just control the level. And then we have the filter. Which has 2 settings, 4-pole and 2-pole. With resonance. And as you can hear, it decreases the volume a bit, especially in the lower frequency range. And if we take a quick look at the manual again, you can see that 2-pole refers to a 12 dB per octave filter and 4-pole is a 24 dB per octave filter. So what's the difference? Well, the 2-pole is more gentle and the 4-pole cuts more upper harmonics, so it's more sharp. And you can see that being represented here with these two slopes here. So the 4-pole is cutting more sharply. And over here we have VCO cross mod, which takes VCO number 1 and modulates VCO number 2. And there's also sync if you want to hard sync the oscillator pitches, and there's ring modulation, and there's also pitch EG intensity. So what does this mean? Well, it means that we can use the EG here to impact the pitch, and this is something that if you have seen my videos about Minilogue before, you know that I love to do. I love to set the pitch EG here to about 10 and then use the EG here to control the, let's see here, the intensity, I think. Wait, is it? Yeah, the intensity of the LFO. So here I can set the rate of the LFO and I'm gonna send it to pitch. So we set a high rate, a low intensity, and then we're using the EG here, using EG mod here, to increase the intensity. And we can play with the EG intensity over here. So this is the EG here controlling the filter. And we can also change the pitch of the individual oscillators a bit to create even more of a drifting sound. So I'm setting the EG here to negative like 42%. I have the filter opened up and I'm using EG here to slowly close it. You can also set key tracking and velocity tracking for the filter, basically so that depending on if you play brighter notes, the filter will open up more, and if you play lower notes, the filter will close a little bit more. I think that's how it works. Don't quote me on it. And then you have velocity. So the more velocity, the harder you play, the more the filter opens up. So for example, so here you can hear. So that's velocity tracking. So the filter opens up when you play stronger. And if we set key tracking for the filter to 100% and we go down to a low octave, the filter is pretty closed and it's more open when we play a higher note. And then over here we have the delay. It can be bypassed. You can have it pre-filter or post-filter. And if you're wondering why the delay doesn't sound that big, it's because it's a mono output. So it's a mono delay. So it will always have that little cramped feeling. I don't think it's the best delay if you're looking for very spacious, luscious sounds. That's why you need to add external effects. So that's what we're gonna do in the next section of the video. Here we have the Tricera chorus from Eventide, and I think that a really nice chorus together with the Minilogue just makes a world of difference. Just listen here. It's very easy to slap something like a microcosm on a synth like this and it will sound totally crazy. This just adds something. So let me show you here. So let's create a pad sound. So now we've ended up with this typical Minilogue sound. It's sort of a slightly brittle, kind of hollow, and that's when you add the chorus. Of course, reverb is always nice, delay is always nice, but chorus just does something very special with the sound. It just adds a lot, and I think that if you're picking up a Minilogue in 2022, you should definitely pair it with a good effect, and I can definitely recommend using something like the Tricera Chorus. Before we move on, we have to talk about the reason why we're buying our synths, and that is of course to release some music. Here's 5 reasons to try out DistroKid. Firstly, you sign up for about $20 a year and you can upload unlimited amounts of music. Secondly, it's really quick and easy to upload. Basically anyone can do it without any prior knowledge. 3. There are different tiers of subscriptions, so if you want to release your music under say different artist names, or if you're starting a label, DistroKid has an option for you. 4. DistroKid lets you upload to relevant stores and streaming services such as Spotify and iTunes, and it doesn't take long for the music to be available in the stores. 5. There's also the hyperfollow feature, which automatically creates a custom page where people can find out where to buy or listen to your music, and I personally really like this feature. So go and check out DistroKid using my link in the description, you get a little discount and you support the channel. At the start of today's video I mentioned being a little disappointed with the Minilogue bass, and that is for one reason. I feel like they could have done more with it. I understand what they're going for, it's a new look, new presets, a new Minilogue version that you can pick up instead of the silver one. But I feel like this was a truly missed opportunity to improve on some of the Minilogue's weaknesses. For example, why didn't they change the filter when they had the chance? I mean, it's the Minilogue bass after all, so they could have changed the filter to something more similar to the Minilogue or the Minilogue XD, and that would probably have been enough for me. But if I'm allowing myself to think totally free, I would have changed the delay from a delay to a chorus instead, something that I at least would have had more use of on a bass-oriented synthesizer. But this is of course all wishful thinking, and at the end of the day I'm kind of glad that they did a refresh of the Minilogue, because in 2022 I still think that it's a very interesting synth. It is not the go-to beginner recommendation anymore for me. For me, the Minilogue XD is probably the first synth that I mentioned to anybody who wants to pick up a first synthesizer in 2022. But the Minilogue is still a really good synthesizer, and I think that especially if you're working with a DAW, say Cubase, Ableton or something like that, and inside of that you'll have a ton of effects to add to the sound of it. So what does it bring to the table? Well, it brings a fun workflow, very immediate, very accessible, has a very interesting sound, and I think, like I said previously, with all of the VSTs that we now have that sound great, I think what you should look for in a synthesizer is something that is a bit different in tone, something you might not be able to get out of your VSTs. And I haven't found a VST that sounds like the Minilogue just yet. It has a very distinct sound. So in today's synth landscape, with all of these affordable and accessible synthesizers, the Minilogue, the original, doesn't have the same place that it did when it came out, but it's still an interesting synth to check out. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and be sure to go and check out today's sponsor, DistroKid, linked in the description. Have a great day, talk to you later.